wireframe option can create some useful effects, such as fencing, chicken wire, or in combination with other operations, even a Christmas decoration. Let's start by making it clear that Blender uses the word wireframe in two different contexts. If we select the wireframe option in the Display Overlays panel, that makes the edges of all the shapes in the scene become visible even when working in object mode. And in the Object Properties page under Viewport Display, we can create that same effect for the currently selected object only. However, when we are working in Edit mode, the Face menu has a wireframe option, and this creates an entirely different effect. This turns every selected edge into an enclosing set of 4 quads. The only restriction is that the edge must be part of a face, and all the edges of the face must be selected. So, while we can create a wireframe on a plane, we can't do it on a circle unless we first create a filled face. In the last op panel, we have a list of parameters allowing us to adjust the overall effect. Starting with thickness, this sets the thickness of the newly created elements. The actual thickness may differ if Offset Relative is checked. Boundary is checked by default. If we uncheck it, the 2 outer quads created over boundary edges of the original shape are deleted. Offset Even, when selected, this adjusts the created elements to ensure even thickness around corner elements. Offset Relative adjusts the thickness according to the size of the object, with smaller objects being less thick. If this option is unchecked, all objects use the same thickness as specified in the Thickness field. Replace, when checked, replaces the original object with the newly created wireframe. If this is unchecked, both the original and wireframe elements exist. Offset adjusts the position of the new elements relative to the location of the original vertices. Only positive values are allowed, lifting the newly created faces away from their initial position. Crease marks the new edges as crease edges, while crease weight assigns a weight value to those crease edges. We'll delay a more detailed explanation of these two parameters until we look at the wireframe modifier in the next part of this video. The wireframe modifier, as well as offering us easier reversibility, also offers some more parameters than the wireframe operation in Edit mode's Face menu. For the most part, parameters in the wireframe modifier, whose names match those we saw earlier in the wireframe tool's last op panel, perform identical functions. However, there is one exception to this, and that is the Offset parameter. In the modifier, this field can be adjusted in a range -1 to +1, with -1 moving the generated faces in the opposite direction to +1. We can also type in values directly that are outside this range, and these will be accepted. When we have used multiple materials on the original object, the material offset determines which material is to be used on the new faces. Using the default value, 0, the new faces are assigned the same material as the local face. Using a value of 1, the material selected is the next one down the material list. Hence, new faces that were dark blue become red, and those that were red become orange, and so on. Since light blue is the last material on the list, those new faces that are already light blue remain unchanged. If we change Material Offset to 2 materials assigned are 2 steps down the list, with what would have been dark blue now becoming orange. Material Offset can also be assigned a negative value, in which case the shift in materials works up the list rather than down. For example, new faces that would be red when Material Offset is set to 0 become dark blue when we use -1. If we've assigned vertex groups within our original object, we can use the Vertex Group field to restrict the wireframe effect to only edges whose vertices are within the selected group. Note that if only one vertex of an edge is in that group, then we get a partial wireframe effect along that edge, as we can see here. To the right of the group name is the Invert button. Activate this, and it's the vertices outside the named group that are used to determine where the wireframe effect is to be applied. The value in factor determines to what extent the wireframe effect is applied to edges whose vertices are outside the selected group. A value of 0 produces no effect, while a value of 1 applies the full wireframe effect. If we also intend to add a subdivision surface modifier, then we may want to make use of the crease checkbox to mark all of the new edges as crease edges and assign them a crease weight. We can see here how using the crease option affects the results produced. Using wireframe, we can create various types of fencing. Or a cage. Or even by adding a subdivision surface modifier, a Christmas bauble.